Hello, and welcome to the March meeting for the Top Shelf Society. Today, we are so excited to be discussing our book for this month, which was a sci-fi book. The second time we've done a sci-fi book, and it is The Long Way to a Small Angry Planet by Becky Chambers. Yay! So before we get started, we always like to kind of give an announcement about what's coming next month. So next month, we are reading a book. I think this was Angela's pick, and it's called The Death of Jane Lawrence by Caitlin Starling. And our live show. Oh, that wasn't you.
No.
I think that might have been Stephanie's.
Again? Oh, okay.
I don't think so, because I think she said she prefers
It wasn't mine.
It wasn't mine.
Maybe it was Laura.
Could be Laura. And then our live show will be on May 1st at 12:30 EST. Yeah.
Why did I echo?
Sorry, that was me. I was opening the YouTube video tab and I didn't mute it fast enough.
That's okay.
Okay, well, we are maybe expecting Stephanie to pop in and join us at any point. We're not really sure what's going on right now, but we're going to kind of continue on without her right now. And Laura also could not join us for this live show, but hopefully the gang will be all back together for our April book, which, like I said, is The Death of Jane Lawrence. And I think that book, you've read it, Angela, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, is it gothic? Like,
kind of, yeah.
Okay, cool. So anyways, back to the subject of today, our sci-fi pick. Before we go into it, we'll just do like our member introductions. So I want to do something a little bit different this time, because normally we just kind of mention what books we normally talk about on our channels, but I know that for some of us, like, we haven't been super active on our channels recently. Maybe just Sarah. Sarah's the active one.
Not even really, kind of.
So I thought it might be fun, like, for us to just mention like a book we're currently reading, or like one we're excited to start reading soon too. And I'll go first so you guys have time to think about it. Okay, so I'm Kristin. My channel is Perks of a Bookflower. For those who don't know, I am a 6th grade ELA teacher, and I'm also a writer. I mean, I do it amateurly, but maybe one day professionally. And I am currently reading the Bridgerton book, so The Duke and I by Julia Quinn.
It's nice.
Yeah.
Inspired by the TV show?
Yeah. I watched season 1, and I know season 2 is out now. So my plan is to read the season 1 book, and then read the season 2 book, and then watch season 2.
Nice.
Yeah. Also, I'm at my mom's house right now, and she has little dogs. So if you hear little dog noises, I'm sorry.
No worries.
Okay.
I'm Angela, and I am currently reading In My Dreams I Hold a Knife, which is like a dark academia. And I've been in the middle of many books right now because life and always mood reading.
Do you like it? Is it like...
I'm not very far in, but so far I like it. Kind of got like a ranking system in my mind of all the dark academia, and I'm excited to see where this one lands, because I feel like it could go either direction of like if it's going to be real dark or not as dark as I want it to be. Sometimes they tend more thriller rather than dark or different things like that, so we'll see.
Hopefully it's more along the lines of If We Were Villains.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know that it can get... I mean, The Secret History is pretty dark. Like, some of the stuff that happened in there, you're like, oh,
it's true. So, yeah.
I'm Sara, and my cat Olivia, she's just on my lap right now. And we like to read all the books. And in terms of what books, I'm currently in, like, kind of like Angela, like, I'm in the middle of like 1,000 books right now. But one that I'm excited to read is going to be my buddy read of the month. And I'm kind of extending it into May. So it's like buddy read of this month and next month. So buddy read of the month, I don't even know if that's a thing. But there's no way I'm going to finish it this month. So that's why I'm putting my end date of next month, like the last day, whatever that is. And it's called Hannah Khan Carries On. And it is a You've Got Mail, like, it's inspired by it. And that's one of my favorite movies ever. I watch it like every Christmas. And yeah. So I'm like really excited to read it. It's like romance, and I'm just like so excited to read it.
Yeah, that movie is so classic. I feel like there are so many like people who like kind of adapt it into something else or retell it some way.
It's like, it was like my lifestyle goal of just like coffee shops and books. And I think that movie was like life-changing. So
absolutely. Okay. All right. Well, we always have a couple things that we do each live show before we get into discussion. So we always make the book a food. Why do we do this? Well, it has something to do with cheese curds, I think. I'm not sure why that happened, but we can do it again. What do you guys think? What food goes for this book?
For me, it's like an Oreo blizzard.
Explain.
I don't know. It's just like a whole bunch of, they're in space, and it's like a space blizzard, and they're all together, and there's lots of different types of people. There's a lot of different types of like entities, humanoids. I don't know. It's just an Oreo blizzard, and
there's a lot going on.
Yeah, like, what do you guys think?
It kind of reminds me of like in the earlier 1900s when like rich people would have like 11-course meals, and there's like all these different flavors and categories, and like it covers such a wide variety of things. That's not a food. That's more just like a type of meal, but whatever.
I don't know why I think this. It's probably so weird, but like these little mud cakes that you used to like have as a kid, where it would be like gummy worms and like crumbled up chocolate cake, and like
and that's kind of the vibe.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
I don't know why, but they do like tunnel through space, you know, so it kind of makes sense, like the worms kind of tunnel. I don't know. I'm stretching here. I'm stretching.
It's just like a whole bunch of stuff.
yeah. Okay, great. So let's just say this is like a cocktail of all of the things we said. It's like, it's a lot. Yeah. All right. Well, the next thing that we always do is we do a prediction for like who we think will really like the book, like say it's a 5-star read, and who will not. So I can start with my predictions. I feel like if Stephanie were here, that I think it would have been a 5-star read for Stephanie. But I don't know. I feel like it's the kind of thing she might like.
I feel like it's going to be very high for Angela.
I have a feeling it's not 5 stars for either of you.
Well, I actually kind of thought that Sara would like it at first, but then there was that message in the group chat, and now I'm like, I don't think he would.
Who knows?
I just hope it's not another unanimous, not a 5-star read. But
well, my problem is, like, if I'm gonna talk about the books, like, I kind of need to tell you how I feel about it up front, right? Like, I don't know how to keep it a secret the whole entire live, or else I won't be able to talk about things.
I know.
I don't know how I'm going to with this one in particular.
Should we go first? Like, should we like reverse the order?
I mean, I'm in if you are.
There's only 3 of us, so it's not like it's like a big puzzle.
Okay. Wow. Exciting.
Mixing it up.
Well, Sara, I nominate you as the first tribute.
This book was so difficult for me to read. And I just like don't want to make anyone like upset or say anything like terrible. Sometimes I start talking and just like I shouldn't, you know. Um, but like, okay, I like that there is sort of like a principle. Like I like principles about the book that you can see in it. I think that there's a lot of different. I think that there are like principles about like, you know, like anti-racism, belonging, sense of community, those sorts of things. And like camaraderie and all of those principles, which I think are just like awesome and amazing. But in terms of like the book, like it like completely went over my head. And like I had to like read around it and stuff. Like I felt so dumb reading it because I was just reading it and I did not understand a lot of things that were happening in the book, and I had to like go to a summary to be like, okay, am I on this, like am I understanding like what's happening in here? And I think that's more of just like a me and sci-fi thing. I know that this isn't like a hardcore like sci-fi, but it's just like the elements of it, which is like space travel and being in a spaceship and having like different communities and having like a greater like war and trying to understand like certain elements of it. And so I feel like I didn't like understand the book. But I think that's just like a me not, you know, I think that's just like a personal thing.
Mm-hmm.
So, but I did really like the principles of the book. And I think that if I was more into like sci-fi and just like that sort of element of it, I think I would have liked it more. Because I feel like this book, if I were to take all of that away, to me, it felt very similar. I don't know if you guys will agree, but it felt very similar to T.J. Klune's book. What was that called?
Oh.
House on Sterling Sea?
Yeah, just in terms of the
so different. Oh wow.
no, but just like in terms of like the principles of the book. But again,
So,
like but it to me it was the sense of belonging and that sort of thing. But
Like found family.
like yeah, like found family and that sort of thing. But again, like I did read the book. It took me a very long time to get through, but like um I I that's the only book that it kind of sort of reminded me of in a certain way. And I'm just gonna stop talking because I just gonna stop talking because I feel like it was so difficult for me to like even like read the book that like I might be completely off in like what I'm saying and that sort of thing.
Well,
So
I might be wrong, but like from my experience, this is pretty light sci-fi. So like
I know it
maybe
is.
maybe like yeah,
I
like
know it is.
I was like, oh.
it felt a lot like Clara and the Sun, and like the fact that it felt like light sci-fi and very like
Yeah.
character based to me. But
Yeah.
I understand what you're saying, Sarah,
Yeah.
because there was like a lot. I mean, like at least Clara and the Sun felt like a really grounded sci-fi, whereas this one is like, you know, kind of a different advanced.
In the
Yeah.
sense that it was sci-fi light, I agree. With
Yeah,
that
it's a
aspect.
lot more about characters.
Also, just to interrupt,
Yeah.
I want to say hello. Thank you for joining us. I love that you say this is one of your favorite books ever because I have a friend, Anne. You guys know her from like books and baking and yeah, maybe you know her. We had her on a stream one time or something, and so it's one of her favorites too. And I hear a lot of people like love these books so much.
Yeah.
And then there's a lot of reading in between the lines too. Yeah. Okay, so that is going to be not a top shelf read. Do you have a star rating for it, or you're going to refrain from it, or?
I'm gonna refrain from it for now.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Who wants to go next?
So for me, I don't know if you remember like The Chosen and Beautiful and how like I had so many post-it notes. a lot of people do flags for like a lot of different things. I don't. I only do them for things that like are meaningful to me, or I want to reread again, or like just like if I pick up a book and flip through, I'm like, oh, I love that. Like that was great. And so like I guess I can show you that yeah, I really liked this a lot.
I thought you would.
Yeah, like I basically used most of my green flags for this. I think especially having sat with it for a few weeks, I do like think about it a lot. And there's a couple of flags that I put stars on because like they're just a few sentences that just completely like just clicked something in my brain. Like for example, this line where they say, I'm worth as much as anyone, no more, no less. I deserve to be here, and so do you. Like a lot of us compare ourselves to each other and we like try to prove our worthiness, or like we think other people are like better than us or worse than us or whatever. And it's just like we are all like we're all just humans. We literally are, I mean, again, this is such common sense, but sometimes you just need it told to you in a specific way. And I think having it be in space with like a range of like species is so wonderful. And I felt like there were so many discussions that were had, like wild. There was so many discussions covered. And again, maybe it's because you had to read between the lines a lot of it to like find what the analogy was and whatnot. But like, yeah, at first it was hard for me to get into because each chapter almost feels like separate, like it's like Doctor Who episodes. Like they're have the characters, but they're unrelated. Like you could basically read a chapter and they're just like, oh, they're in space. What's this next chapter's journey, right? So that was hard for me to keep picking it up because I didn't have like a singular plot to pull. But like once you get to know the characters and once you become attached to everyone and things like that, like I just thought it was very profound. And I'm looking forward to the next two to get like now that you know them very well, like to see what kind of more shenanigans they get up to. So yes, it was a top shelf read for me, and yeah, I'm looking forward to the rest of the series.
Oh my goodness, I'm so happy. And you are not the only one who has liked it. Becca's here. Hello, Becca. And Becca loved this one. They got the next book in the series and can't wait to read it. And so much green.
Yeah, I had to pick green because of the book, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, gotta tab it up. That's how you can tell if I really love it.
All the tabs.
I really love what you said about like how we're all just humans, because I feel like that's besides the thing I'm about to talk about is like the thing that like sticks with me like the most from this story. I mean, whether we're alien or whatever we are, like at our core, we're just people who are alive, you know, and there's so many similarities to us regardless of like whether we have 6 arms or 8 toes or whatever, you know, like it doesn't matter. Those are just like exterior things. Okay, so my thoughts on the book. I finished reading it a couple weeks ago, so I've had time to sit and think about it, kind of like Angela has. And I feel like every single day, like something has brought my mind back to this book. And like particularly I can't remember his name, but Lovey, the AI, and then the guy who like falls, Jinx, yeah. I don't know why. That just like I think about it all the time and I'm like, that is the most tragic thing, right? Like, oh, and that moment whenever like Lovey like restarts and like says like they're like all of the memories and connections that they've formed just like is gone. I feel like I'm tearing up right now. I don't know. It was just so like that whole love thing was so beautiful and so powerful, and it was so heartbreaking. That was I think probably my favorite part of it. I feel like in the beginning of the story, like we were kind of given Rosemary at the beginning, and I didn't really like care for Rosemary as much as I did for the others. But since she was like the first one kind of mentioned, I always like latched on to Rosemary as like the main character. But like Dr. Chef, he's so great. I love him. And I don't know. I feel like I was just like coming into this, I was just gonna be like, it's like 4 stars, like really, really good. But I don't know. The fact that like I really cannot forget like these characters, I feel like I have to say it's top shelf tier.
Oh my god, I'm so excited. I did not expect that.
I know. It's just so beautiful. And like after reading it, I read a couple YA rom-coms, which I love, but like they hit differently, you know? And like I can't get over how beautiful the characters are, and to me it's like there are these characters and they just so happen to be in space. Like I kind of like the other stuff that if I didn't understand it or like whatever, I just kind of didn't let that bother me, but like who they were and their relationships, I thought they were so good.
Well, and that's the thing,
really
like we were talking about how it shows our world too, like Earth across the spectrum, and like for example, I study like a lot about like multicultural education, and I'm like, this book, like this is because for some reason we have a hard time with other humans, but when you take it and turn it into like other characters, maybe people like get it a little more, that like the cultural differences between like Sissex's peoples, for example, and like how they have family units and how they pair and how they view intimacy and stuff, and like that is what we have on Earth too within our human species, but we're a lot less accepting and understanding of it with each other, and we're just like, oh, that's weird, that's wrong, or that's different. It's like, no, it's a genuine cultural difference, and if we aren't aware of these cultural differences, that's what causes so much misunderstandings and problems. And I don't know, I just feel like this was a great example for understanding a lot of things, but in particular like the different cultures and beliefs and just everyone's differences. Yeah. I'm gonna go on a tangent about that. I'll stop.
You're so right though. It's like because I mean that's how we teach children, right? We take like important concepts and we put them in stories so that they can understand what's going on in their world better. And I wish that everyone could read this book because I feel like it would help them be a more like understanding human, a more caring, compassionate, empathetic human.
I don't know what our problem is. Why do people have such a hard time with it amongst each other? But when it's like, I don't know. But like maybe that would be helpful, like you said. Maybe this book could be helpful for people.
So a couple more comments. Book 2 is on my top 10.
Oh no.
I cried. It was so beautiful. I hope that it has all the same characters. I was like hesitant to start it because at the end of my ebook, I was like reading like a preview of the next book, and like I didn't know who any of the characters were. And like I'm so attached to the ones that were in the first book. Yeah, like it gave like the first like 30 pages and like I didn't see any of the same characters pop up. But it could be that they come later. I don't know. Or maybe they don't repeat characters, but like
I would imagine they'd have to if it's the Wayfarer.
Yeah.
Unless they switch up the crew. I can't imagine they would do that. Like change the crew? No.
I don't know. I didn't
see like a different time or
yeah, I don't know. Okay. Angela hit it on the head. Great explanation.
Thank you. Yeah. I'm glad it was coherent because I feel like I can ramble on and on about this.
Okay, well now that the cat is out of the bag, I guess we'll kind of just go like in reverse order. And since what?
Sorry, that comment. I was so surprised.
Oh wow!
Wow. Interesting. That's such an interesting concept to do.
I
want
hope
more
Dr.
people to
Chef is
love.
in it.
I
Is
liked
that his
him.
name, Dr. Chef? Yeah.
Yeah.
So maybe that would be fun. Like to talk about like favorite versus least favorite character if you had one.
Sussex, maybe? I love
Mhm.
Dr. Chef too. I feel like Dr. Chef everyone would love.
I like
I like
Dr.
Sussex. Like that
So
moment
Sussex,
in the what's it called where you buy things? Like all the shops, that moment with the
the older,
other older woman. Yeah, like that was
yeah.
so beautiful and precious, and like I don't know. I hope Sussex and Rosemary like really get together. I'm so happy.
But would they? I don't know because they don't couple like in like that way, do they? Like that species? They like would they partner with just one?
I don't know. That's what I'm curious. That's what I mean. I want to know more about it. Like I'm like, would they
Yeah.
partner with this one or would they not at all? And what does that partnership mean? Like, because like their
There's
version
a
of a
lot of different
partnership,
types of
yeah,
partnerships in the book.
exactly.
There's so
Like
many different, yeah.
like a partner, but
Yeah.
then like that doesn't necessarily have to be just an intimate partner. Like you can be intimate with other people, but you could be a partner with each other. It was just
It may,
yeah, it's
it
just
may just be in a different way
yeah.
than like
Yeah.
the norm.
I want to talk about Corbin because I just as a refresher and to make sure I'm talking about Corbin correctly, that's the clone, right? Corbin is the guy who was cloned,
Yes.
and he's the one who caused, like, he had something to do with something bad that happened. Well, yeah, he got raided by the space police because they found out he was a clone, and then I think it was Kizzy or Kitty who someone did not like him and went to save him.
Sussex.
Like
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So what do you think? Is Corbin a villain or a gentle soul?
Okay, I don't think we can talk about that without talking about what he did to I can't remember his name for some reason. What is the one's name who they take a virus? The navigator guy? What's his name? Someone help me. I
Ohan?
can't find it.
Okay. Oh,
Who?
is it Ohan?
Is that Ohan?
Yes.
Ohan?
Yes.
Oh, Ohan.
I so want to
yeah.
talk about this because I am so torn. I'm genuinely torn because
I have to like refer to my notes.
yeah. So okay.
Okay,
Yeah.
so
Ohan
he had the disease. Yeah.
had the disease
Yeah.
and
Yeah,
it
the
makes
virus.
him a pear. Right. It makes him a pear. And the disease tells him that this is like, and they've built this up to be a sacred way. You must die with it. This is what you want. But then the other ones are like, well, there's a cure and you can continue to be a navigator. And it's lying to them. That's the disease lying to them. I still don't know how I feel. I don't know because on one hand, that was not his choice. It was against his will. And that's not
But he was
okay.
sick.
Like how Ashby was saying, like he needs to make this decision. Now you've taken this from him and he believed that this was what his sacred meaning was to do, was to die, and you can't take that from him. But was it the disease telling him that? Did actually Ohan want to do it? Or was it just the disease and he was saving his life? I don't know.
I feel like I know. Like for me, this is not gray, but I get that that's kind of like a hot take. But for me,
it's like a philosophical take, you know? Ethics.
I think that he
ethical?
was sick. I think he was sick, and I think that what Corbin did was the right decision. Even though I hated it in the moment, I was like, "Don't take this thing from him." At the same time, I was like, "No, he is sick. He can like when children have to make decisions. Well, when they're children, we don't let them make big, important, life-altering decisions because they're not developed. Their whatever it's called is not where it needs to be, where they can make those kind of decisions on their own. Really, like so, guardians help them with that, and
yeah, and there's a whole kind of
Yeah, tell us.
ethical correlate with this in so many different like treatments or transfusions or whatever that can be given to patients in order to halt or completely cure or stop disease. However, it goes back to whether the patient can consent to the procedure or not. And then if they do not consent to the procedure, we sort of have to go by what the patient requests.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like, what about religious people?
In many cases,
Yeah.
you just sort of have to respect that patient and their culture, even though you may completely disagree with it.
Yeah.
And there are a lot of different correlates. It's not always like life and death sort of thing. It can even be treatments or procedures or surgeries, or very, yeah. Yeah, there
That's
can
what I mean.
there
How do we feel about that? I don't know.
I don't know. I took like a whole class on this, and people who practice medicine still, debate this constantly. Yeah, and some completely omit certain parts of medicine. Like some will sort of like cater their practice differently. Some will allow certain surgeries. I'm kind of talking about around it and not allow others. And some will not work in transfusion medicine while others will. So I think that there is a lot of grayness still in that realm. And yeah. That's medicine.
I get that.
Yeah.
I mean, for the sake of his character, I'm really glad Corbin did it because I didn't want to lose him or anything. But at the same time, it's a tough ethical conundrum.
It is because I understand both. Yeah.
Me too. Yeah.
I think I was just seeing it from kind of like the lens of myself, like because I struggle with like mental illness, and sometimes my anxiety is like so debilitating for me, and it requires someone else who's outside of all of my anxiety and everything that I'm feeling to like help me, because they can see clearly when I cannot, but
and it's difficult, right? Because there are definitely those who have certain mental illnesses who will refuse any sort of treatment or procedure that may greatly benefit them. But at the end of the day, you kind of have to let the patient have autonomy.
And I think with Ohan's like species, the problem is that it became almost religion rather than just, oh, I have this disease and it's tricking me. It's like, no, they turned it into, this is a sacred path. And if you don't do it, you're a heretic. That's why they're all on that other planet. So that takes it a little bit from like maybe having a specific illness to, oh, but this is now a part of their faith. And that takes it like, I don't know. And there isn't an
certain religions where if you accept certain treatments, basically your afterlife is not going to happen the way that it's
right.
The way that it's told in whatever faith that they have, right? So it's like it's an incredibly important it's incredibly important for them.
Yeah, okay. And I think that
though. At the end, he seemed like he was becoming himself again and asking questions. So, I mean, hopefully it all ended well, but but to answer your question, I don't know how I feel about Corbin.
I know, you're right. And I mean, the fact that we're even having this discussion anyways, like it's just kind of a nod to Becky Chambers and like the power of this book, right? And how it, even though it takes place like what, hundreds of years from now, thousands in space, it is still like so perfectly relevant to our little humble lives.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I'm not really sure how I feel about Corbin either. I wouldn't say he was my least favorite, but he definitely was a little quick to act sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Well, I wanted to talk about like your favorite moment in the story, or like a least favorite moment. So if you were to tell someone about your favorite part of this book, like what is the scene or the moment that sticks with you the most?
There's too many I'm not gonna lie to you. I don't even know that I could.
I guess one part that sticks out to me is when I think it's Dr. Chef. Is that his name? I'm trying to remember all of these details that aren't really there, but I think it's Dr. Chef or Chief or anyway. What ends up happening is like they have that discussion about the biological like weapons and the and I guess the scene that sticks out to me is when they were talking about like the guns and how there are certain like bullets that like one group was using against another that would be like shredders or something like that, and it would just like it wouldn't just be like a bullet just passing through you, it would be a bullet that went in and just like completely like destroyed you and killed you within like 30 minutes or something like that, right?
Mm-hmm.
And he was talking about how horrified he was because he would have to basically like euthanize his patients, right? And kill them. I think with like a potassium chloride injection. He just said injection, but that's kind of what I'm assuming that he would have to do, and how horrified he was. However, then like his like group sort of like did the same sort of thing and used those guns and those bullets against that group, but then he finds out that like he finds out that it was originally like their idea in the first place, and that the other group just like was slow or was faster at developing it. And I just thought that was just so like that just like kind of gave me like chills a little bit, and how it can be sort of like, you know, you think of the other and are so horrified when you are attacked by like the other, but when you realize that your group is the one who created the idea in the first place, and so like it's not like I don't know what I'm trying to say, but it's just it affected me quite a bit because he had yeah.
Yeah, to piggyback off of what you were saying, I'm trying to find I know I have a flag somewhere, but I just have too many. I can't find it. The what you're saying, the idea there was this part where they were talking about bringing humans from Earth into their alliance. There's their like outer space alliance. I can't remember what it was called. And the report was like, what would benefit us to do this? They can't even be civilized within their own species.
Yeah.
They have nothing to offer us because they can't even work it out amongst each other. They're doing all this, and I think it's very, very relevant all the time. And I know that's not like I wouldn't say that's like the number one thing that I take away from this book, but it was a huge part and a huge like, reality of it is that we can't even care about our own species, Like think this book takes place so much further in the future when it becomes, a lot of other species involved in outer space and everything, but a lot of those examples, like what you just gave, Sara, and a lot of the other examples that they gave too in the book too. Yeah, it's like, what are we doing? Like, we're not, we act like we're civilized, but are we?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I agree. So Another thing I wanted to mention, I feel like we would be like remiss not to mention, is this whole concept of like a feather family. So do you guys remember like what a feather family is in the book?
Isn't like your chosen family?
I think so. Like, so you give someone like your feather, and then those people are your people, and so it doesn't matter like your family. In fact, like the people who give birth to you are not important in your life at all, and your family is solely the people that you choose. Like, how would you ever do something like what if that was the world we lived in? Like, do you think the world would be a better place or a worse place?
Well, it wasn't, they gave feathers to anyone that impacted them.
Oh, okay.
But then they had the feather family. I mean, in a lot of ways, I feel like we kind of do that. We kind of can find our own chosen family. Isn't marriage kind of like that? Choosing who you want to be partners with?
And I guess, yeah, with friends too.
Mm-hmm.
I just thought that was so beautiful, like to express how you give a piece of yourself to the people who like have an impact in your life.
Yeah.
I personally like think that well, we're talking about a lot of things, so I'll just go ahead and talk about it. I think that a lot of people could potentially live a lot happier, healthier, most importantly, lives if a lot of our culture wasn't so dominated with, well, they're your family no matter what. Because sometimes if it is very, very unhealthy and it's irreparable and you can't do anything about it and you just stay bonded with them only because they're family, I don't know that that's healthy for you or the world, really. Like, I don't know if that's healthy. So, yeah, I agree. I do think that we do kind of have the culture too where we can choose our family, but we also do have a lot of that, like, oh, well, stick with it no matter what. And might not always, maybe sometimes that will work out, but maybe not always.
What did you think of Rose? Sorry. What did you think of like Rosemary's Secret?
Yeah, that's an example.
Right?
Exactly. Right. Rosemary didn't
And
choose to be born to them.
were you surprised that she was accepted despite what her father had done? Would that
Not
be how it would
really.
go down here, like, or were you not, because I was, I guess, not surprised because of the crew that she was like with, but I thought that that might not actually like be the case in reality, and that that happens often. I think
Agree. I think
maybe because of, hmm
sorry, I think my connection might be lagging a little bit, but I didn't mean to talk over you. But yeah, I think that happens all the time, right? Like we
yeah.
are judged based off of the actions of our parents. We talk about like stained reputations from like things that we've done in the past, and
Or I guess even think of like past political leaders and their family, and how one might think of their daughters, their wife, their whatever, right? Because of who they're associated with as being like a political figure.
Well, spouse, I do blame them because you could leave. But like family, yeah, you can't really do anything about that. I'm quite honestly surprised that that was Rosemary's Secret. I thought it was gonna be something that she had done. And like I thought it was gonna explore maybe like making mistakes or different things like that. But no, yeah, her family. I do feel it was in character to answer your previous question for Jenks to accept that. I know, like they said, Ashby was mad because of lying, but like Ashby's doing things that are not illegal, but like they're not really supposed to do with his personal life. And like, I think all of them kind of, have gray area with a lot of things, and I can imagine that I felt like it was accurate to accept them, but I thought it was still really powerful though when it was talking about how, was it Dr. Sheff or Jenks that said it when they said about, we're not responsible for the wars our parents start. The best thing we can do is walk away. And sometimes the only thing we can do is to walk away. And I thought that was like a good, powerful line and perspective that I felt they would all have too.
Yeah. And I think I want to talk about the whole like found family, feather family thing, kind of just the fact that in Sussex like culture, like the birth parents were not like important like at all, because I feel like that would probably be really like validating to like someone who has a poor or non-existent relationship with like birth parents, but have other people in their lives who are so much more important to them too. Like I love that was explored.
Yeah. And I loved so what this is referencing is controversial, but I personally loved the idea of how their society talks about how valuable the older people are because of their experience and wisdom, and they're the ones who help raise the children, not the birth parents, them. And how like I'm going to be a teacher. Like I think children have everything in the world to offer, and they're so valuable, and they have so much knowledge and wisdom already. And so I don't necessarily agree that the idea of like in her culture, like kids aren't really anything yet until they get older and they can contribute to society. But I did think it was important when they pointed out like the potential for this is not the same as having it and being in society. Like, as they said, like, I completely agree with that. And I think that it was, like you said, it was a really powerful message to talk about how, like, especially a lot of like Western culture, like we don't always respect like the wisdom that people with experience have. And they made it a point to show about like how valuable that is to pass on and to help raise them, and just the community aspect of raising children too. Us, again, a lot of Western culture doesn't really have that community aspect quite as much as other cultures do. I thought there was so much about Sisyx's like whole planet and all of them that was so fascinating, and a great, like we said, like connections to our life too.
Yeah, I need a whole Sussex book, please.
I know. I mean, I loved a lot of them. Yeah, like what about Kizzy? Yeah. She was wild.
I know. One of these questions I found was like, would you rather be stranded in a space capsule with Kizzy or Corbin?
Oh, Kizzy, 1,000,000%.
Yeah.
Sara?
Yeah, I agree.
I can't really remember Kizzy.
She's like a mechanic type person.
Mm-hmm.
I think me and her would get along. I don't
All right, guys.
think Corbin and I would get along.
Yeah. So I feel like we're coming near the end of our discussion. But before we do, is there any other like super important element you feel like we would be remiss if we did not discuss?
Yeah, a ton, but
I know. Like we haven't talked about the Turimi or
well, there's so many philosophical debates in here, like obviously talking about who do we assign personhood, like with Lovey and with different things like that. What is how do we define personhood, and to whom do we give personhood? That was interesting, but I mean, I don't think that this really gave a lot new that we haven't already seen with like that AI discussion, but I did think it was powerful when Ashby was going about like in front of the board, and they were like, oh, you're fine, you did. And he's like, no, I lost one of my crew, they're dead now. And they're like, oh, you mean your AI? And he's like, yes. And then they mentioned that impacted them too. I thought that was like a pretty powerful scene, because like if like we assign personhood to something that has built and lived experiences and like forming memories and emotions and connections, like that's literally what humans are. And this is electrical, this is wiring, kind of, like, I don't know, I thought that was interesting. That was really cool discussion.
I felt like Lovey like was, like to me Lovey was not just some computer. Like Lovey was a character in the story, just like the rest of them. And like Lovey died. So yeah.
Yeah, that's how I felt too.
I don't know what it is about AI, but like, same thing with like Clara and the Sun. I just they like get me, like, right in my heart.
Like, don't even start talking about that book. Those would be like waterfalls.
No.
Really? I didn't even like that book. That's so funny. This is my favorite. I love it. I didn't even like that.
I hope that I said that Clara and the Sun was a top shelf read, because I still think about that book all the time, about Clara being in the closet looking out at the sun, and
Sarah's gonna cry now.
I know.
I'm just laughing because Angela's just straight up like, I didn't like that book.
Hey, I'm being honest. I didn't care for it. It was very boring. I don't know. It was nothing happened, and it was just like, okay, I get it. She wants to be a person. Okay, cool.
It's okay.
I'm a jerk. I know. I'm a jerk.
No, you're not. You're not a jerk.
Look, you tracked Emma, and that's my favorite. So, well, not my favorite, but it was a top shelf read.
Hey, I'm not that innocent, okay?
Exactly. We both are kind of brutal.
I think I'm just almost like happy a little bit, like welcome to the dark side. But not with this book. Just kidding.
Oh my word.
I'm kidding. I feel like you just like what you like. Do you know what I mean? Like certain books you just vibe with and you enjoy and you like. Clara and the Sun forever. A lot of people thought it was really boring. And I do not hold that perspective. But, you do you.
Exactly.
Right?
And you didn't like this one, and I loved it. So you do you. I hope you like the next one. I'm so curious to hear your thoughts about the death of Jane Lawrence. Like I said, like because you really liked Mexican Gothic. I'm so curious to see if this is like, and I know I don't know, because you don't like sci-fi because it's too much of your work, but this one is also medical, and I'm wondering if you're not going to like it because that's kind of your work too. I'm just so curious. I can't wait. I can't wait to know what you think.
We'll just have to read it and find out.
Okay, before I forget, one more thing too that I thought was a fantastic talk about body modifications and how like with everything going on with the pushback against transgender healthcare, and like I just thought it was beautiful how he was talking about like it says basically you do it to, where is it? Right here. It's about trying to be more than the little box that you're born into. And trying to make yourself fit for what yourself is, and it's your body, and you're not it like he's saying, like tweaking your body is about trying to make your physical self fit with who you are inside. Not that you have to tweak to get that feeling, but that's the risk that you take in trying to be more than the little box that you're born into. And I was like, one after another, this book is killing it.
That's like what I mean when I said, like, initially I was like, I get the principles of this book. Like, I agree with them. Like, I understand. I feel like it's great that they have so many different perspectives, and that they dive into this. And even something that is gray area is explored. Say, for instance, with like blood transfusions, vaccine like treatments, or not vaccine treatments, virus treatments, antivirals or whatever. There's just so many things that are explored and dealt with. And I think that this is a good book to read if, for instance, you kind of want to, I don't know, explore a lot of different issues about acceptance and various cultures, various identities, various like relationship types, etc. And this sort of format clicks with you. Like if this sort of like if it clicks with you, like for me, I like to read like more of like a contemporary with these issues, or contemporary, or like nonfiction, or that sort of aspect of it. Once they sort of go into fantasy and sci-fi, that's kind of where I almost feel like, oh, I'm being pushed out of reality too much, and I'm not comfortable with this. That I like to just kind of be like, this is like what's going on in the world, and in real time, in a way that I can relate to. So I personally find it easier to relate to like contemporary or nonfiction, but this is like a creative way of demonstrating that.
Definitely, yeah, perfect.
Right? And that's interesting, because for me,
that's my perspective on it.
Yeah. And for me, I feel like the fact that it was science fiction, or the fact that it's fantasy, makes it easier for me to like relate to and like understand better, I think. And I love contemporary too, but I don't know. It's just because there's less of like the person or the messiness of our society, because it's someone else's. So it's kind of like a mirror thing going on. It's why like Narnia, like for a lot of people, and for me, like I get a lot of I learn a lot about religion maybe from it, and so like I see a lot of religion in it.
Oh yeah, totally. C.S. Lewis, totally. Aslan, yeah.
And like that book has helped me understand God like a little bit. So it's like, I feel like in fantasy and science fiction, you really can do that.
And I'm going to take it a step further, like, because see, I don't like contemporary, like hardly at all. I really don't like it. And to me, that is because like I want to read more. If I'm going to read something about reality, it'll probably be more nonfiction. Other than that, I would rather it be escapism, but with all of this talk. And so for me, like I have really been getting into horror that has these types of talks and metaphors and like things like that.
Like, I like horror with it. Horror, sure. Horror,
yeah, like
for
horror
sure.
With it, sci-fi, fantasy, like those. I think those three are like my favorites: horror, sci-fi, and fantasy. When it talks about these types of things, and like it can, like you were saying, Kristin, like it's relating to it, but it's not necessarily our reality. And it almost is. I mean, especially you being like an ELA teacher, like having to find those meanings, having to find those connections that they're talking about, and being like, oh, that just went off in my brain. That's like what they're talking about this real world issue and stuff. And yeah, so it's totally understandable that this just wasn't your like if it would have been contemporary for me, but for you, like sci-fi is just not your mode for it, but you like what they're talking about.
And I get it, because like nonfiction and contemporary is like weighted. And like I feel like if you can allow yourself to escape into sci-fi, then it doesn't feel the same way, I would assume.
A little lighter, I guess. Yeah,
a little lighter. Yeah.
I have one more thing. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to take your job as like the person, but you asked if
go right ahead, Angela.
I'm sorry. Another thing, we already kind of touched on mental health, but with Kizzy's like PTSD that was happening after they got like boarded at on the ship, and when she talked to was it Dr. Chef? Yeah, Dr. Chef about it, and he was talking about how like bottling up feelings is such a human thing, and like humans' preoccupation with being happy is something that he'd never been able to figure out, because no sapient could sustain happiness all of the time, just like no one could live permanently within anger or boredom or grief. You embrace it, accept it, and acknowledge it'll never go away. And like the talk about how, and like how when she talked to Ashby's love interest and was talking about how, like, how do you deal with being scared? How do you stop being scared? She's like, you don't stop being scared. You are scared and you do it anyway. Like that whole, there's so many also elements about like how humans think of emotions and existence. Like we're always trying to be happy all the time. And if we're not happy, we're upset. And it's like, well, that's a part of life. You genuinely can't be happy all the time. So you're not failing if you're not happy right now. And if you're, and like, stop trying to not be scared, feel that scare, but do it anyway. You know, like, I just thought those were all such great topics.
I just think that this whole sort of desire to want to be happy like all the time, I think that it has like a very strong tie to like capitalism and just like trying to give us products or whatever to make us the happiest that we'll ever be. Like we'll be happy, we'll be beautiful, we won't have like any fear, we'll conquer our lives, we'll do this and this and this, right? So I think that so I think that's like a whole big sort of drive, and also the drive to be like insanely productive as well kind of ties in with that.
Capitalism, baby.
So I just had to say that, you know what I mean? Like, and so we don't allow ourselves to even think of being in a different state because we're just like bombarded with these messages all the time on social media, like through media, through like our television shows, through everything. That's just constantly what we're being kind of brainwashed to think, that we should always just be the happiest, most content, most amazing versions of ourselves. But you can't sustain that.
Right.
Sometimes things happen, and if you try to force being happy, or then you can't allow yourself to like grieve, or you can't allow yourself to like conquer anything because you may just avoid situations that may bring upon you like fear and that sort of thing. So
yeah. And I'm gonna quote Audre Lorde: caring for myself is not self-indulgence, it is self-preservation, and that is an act of political warfare.
Yeah, I think that's great.
Completely agree.
Yeah.
See, like, there's just so much. Like, that's why, like, as much as at first it took me a while to get into, because it was hard to, like I said, I didn't have, because yes, they're on a long way to a small angry planet. So like there wasn't like a catalyst of something that was happening that they were dealing with. It was just, we're going somewhere and let's see what happens. So it was hard for me to keep picking it up chapter after chapter because I didn't have that like hook to pull me in. But once you get in and once all this stuff starts happening and you start like thinking deeper, and then afterwards, like you were saying, Kristin, like how it just like sticks with you, and there's so much discussion to be had and thoughts that it provokes. And yeah, so for me, I was just like, yeah, this is definitely a great one. Uh-oh, is Kristin frozen?
I think so.
I'm frozen. Oh. Hello?
I heard you that time.
Hello?
I can hear you.
I can hear you. Just the image is a little...
Okay. We're having a horrible storm, and I don't know if it's affecting, like, the internet, Probably. But you can hear me?
Yes.
Okay. So I was just going to say, like, the same thing as Angela. I had I had to force myself to read, like, the first half, like, each chapter. But it wasn't really forcing. Like, I don't want to say it wasn't that I didn't like it, but like it wasn't like a page turner until I got to the part where I found out that Corbin was like a clone, and I don't know why, but that is when like everything started to pick up a lot for me. And I felt like I read the second half of the book from there in like one day. So yeah. Yeah.
And okay, I'll spoil it. Oh wait, did Stephanie respond? Yes. Okay, so Stephanie responded. But I know that she liked it too. So I don't know if she didn't tell me if she would consider it a top shelf, but Stephanie also did really enjoy it a lot. So could potentially be another top shelf. Who knows?
Okay. Well, 2 out of 3. I would say that's pretty good for this month.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Well, I think that is going to probably end it for our live show today. I actually don't think my internet connection is going to sustain much longer. So just a reminder, if you made it this far and watching it back, that our next live show is going to be on May 1st, which is a Sunday at 12:30 EST, and we're doing The Death of Jane Lawrence by Caitlin Starling.
Yes.
So we would love for you to join us, and I guess we will see you in the next one. Bye.